I'm on it.
I am told that one man was inside the home at the time of the fire. He did make it out safely. He was transported.
They're feeling confident heading into tomorrow's matchup against South Carolina. I'm right outside William Bryce Stadium.
Guys, I don't know if you can hear me right now. I'm not even sure if I'm on TV. Southern hospitality. Someone took some napkins, got me off.
You would never know if you didn't look off into the distance and see some of the charred mountainsides like you see behind me here.
Today, after doing this for 46 years,
I think maybe more than anybody's done in this office in 50 days, that I can tell you.
To some unexpected places. One of the things that makes this trail unique today are the 40-plus community trail cities like Hot Springs, North Carolina, right across the Tennessee line. The Appalachian Trail runs right through the downtown, and the city is chock full of resources to help through hikers or even your family for a great day trip.
Of course, when you come to the football stadium, the primary focus is watching the football game. But it's getting towards halftime, you're thirsty, you want to get a bite to eat. You're thinking, let's go up and check the concessions. At most stadiums, that's going to cost you an arm and a leg, but not here.
Seasoning, so this is your seasoning?
Yes, sir.
Can I season one of them?
Absolutely.
All right. Yeah, okay, there. That good?
Yes,
it's
sir.
the seasoning. I think it's the flip of the wrist myself. See, just like that. You got a good technique. He's got great technique, great burgers.
Anymore. It is cold out here. I set out this thermometer outside for a bit. Right now it's saying I'm feeling a crisp 35 degrees.
Official signage here inside the stadium other than, of course, the Mercedes-Benz logo, which means they can transform it into anything.
You get together with a group of people and are able to transfer knowledge. Everybody grows from that. And it's just that opportunity.
Tim Tebow is here this morning. I did find myself a big comfy red chair, though. This is actually Paul Feinbaum.
Excuse me, I think you're in my chair, Marshall.
Look who we have this morning. What's up, Paul? We got Paul Feinbaum from SEC Nation.
Brady Hoke was, of course, asked what his intentions and goals are for the next 2 weeks, and as you were saying, he was thrown into a difficult situation.
Thousands of people hike part or all of the Appalachian Trail every year, following these signature white blazes that help guide you on the right path. But more than 80 years ago, the idea of the AT, as it's commonly called, was difficult to conceive. Some 2,000 miles, many had to literally be carved into mountainsides. These photos from the National Park Service archives show the CCC helping to pave the way through the Great Smoky Mountains National Park. The path has been altered through the years, but by 1937, nearly 2,200 miles of trail officially connected Georgia to Maine. Just last year, more than 4,000 people were tracked as through hikers in the Smokies, meaning they hiked all 70 miles consecutively in the park and 50 more miles on each side. Thousands of others, well, they do smaller sections every day.
It's one of the most special opportunities for people to hike at the highest elevations across the peaks of the Smokies and enjoy these incredible views of ridge after ridge uninterrupted by development.
The highest point on the entire trail is right here in the Smokies at Klingman's Dome, elevation 6,644 feet.
People tell us when they've hiked the entire Appalachian Trail that the Smokies is the highlight.
But as this trail twists and turns through 14 states, parts of the path might take you to some unexpected places. One of the things that makes this trail unique today are the 40-plus community trail cities like Hot Springs, North Carolina, right across the Tennessee line. The Appalachian Trail runs right through the downtown, and the city is chock full of resources to help through hikers or even your family for a great day trip.
We don't have chain restaurants. We don't have stoplights. You're just here.
But here, like the name suggests, you have access to hourly soaks and tubs fed with mineral water from a nearby stream, lodging to suit any budget, and one of only a few libraries right on the AT, complete with free Wi-Fi and a computer lab.
We actually did a survey to find out what other ways we could help them, and the thing they wanted was coffee, a warm place, and Wi-Fi.
Hot Springs is actually the southernmost town or trail community where the path intertwines with city streets. The manager of the resort and spa here says it's a win-win for everyone.
Well, of course, the Appalachian Trail being the main street of town is very important to us. We may not do the whole 2,000+ mile hike, but it's easy for us to jump on the trail, pack a picnic, spend a day outside with the kids.
Work is constant on the other side of the glass. Constant feedings, constant cleanings, constant food preps. To get an idea, we first head to the quarantine area where new animals are placed for at least a month to relieve any kind of moving stress before being released into the show tanks. The biggest tank in the room holding 3 incredibly endangered and very large and intimidating sawfish.
Being able to breed these guys in captivity is always would always be great. They're vulnerable out in the wild.
Jared Durrett is the aquarium's curator and says food is quite the undertaking since all the sea life has special diets. Well, today the sawfish are getting salmon and they're fed by using this pole. Now, I was told to hold on tight because of the animal's strong whipping motion.
Perfect right here. So keep it down low. Oh, look at that.
Oh, that was intense. That was cool.
Next up, the giant Pacific octopus. She's getting blue crab and salmon. Now, I tore the legs off because apparently she won't eat them, and it's one less thing to fish out of the tank later. Now, the food is then placed in an enrichment toy for her to figure out.
That's it? Yeah. So we'll actually put the food in this container and seal it up, and the octopus will actually be able to solve this puzzle, as it were, and actually remove the lid herself and pull the food out.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
We got her attention by touching her tentacles, which started moving actually up our arms. And the force in her suction cups were incredibly strong. Now, I gave her the food and then started feeding the other animals inside the tank. From there, it was off to feed the stingrays. But I needed to change into a full body skin because we're actually getting inside the tank to do this.
Are you scared? Come in here.
What we're doing here is actually called target feeding to make sure certain stingrays don't hog all the food. We were only feeding the spotted eagle rays and their babies using a PVC elbow and a clicker.
When that target's in the water, the stingrays recognize that visually and then approach the target. Once they approach the target, they actually have a clicker underwater. It's an auditory marker for the stingrays. They recognize, all right, I've hit the target now, and I hear that sound, and then we reward them with their food.
Right now we're feeding about 8 pounds of seafood to the stingrays. Now on average, the aquarium actually runs through 1,400 pounds of seafood every week, but it all starts in the kitchen.
Every day, they break up food for the next day, and in this case, it's mackerel for the stingrays.
Just cut right behind the operculum there.
Right there. Do you go at an angle?
A little bit.
The head and tail come off, then the guts are taken out.
And we do so because we want to get the guts out of there just in case there's any hooks in their gut.
Okay.
We don't want to accidentally feed that to the animals.
It's cut into thirds and into a feeding bucket for tomorrow to do all over again.
These firemen didn't quit on you. They didn't run the opposite direction. They were going in areas that their training, their entire career had told them was a no-go situation.
Gatlinburg Fire Chief Greg Miller says some of his men and women saw more fires in one night than most firefighters will see in an entire career.
If you break that down, that's a structure fire every 19 seconds.
Chief Miller went on to talk about that firestorm that was so intense it even forced them out of the command center in the middle of the chaos.
I hate to even ask it this bluntly, were you ever scared at that point?
I would be lying if I said no.
Miller emphasized his fear that night was not for himself, but for everyone trying to escape the flames and his crews out there fighting to extinguish them. He describes the anxiety listening to one captain after another on the radio from the command post.
It was an emotional roller coaster because they would holler for their crews to come to a parking lot and get face down because the fire was going over top of them. And they would say, I need you to get face down and pray. And then the radio would go silent for a few minutes.
If you have units on Wiley Oakley Drive, they need to leave right now.
And during those few minutes, as the fire chief, you're not knowing if you just lost 10 or 12 firefighters or not. And then the next thing you know, the radio would chirp and the captain would get on the radio and he would say he is okay, and he would call out to all of his men and they would one by one say that they're okay. So then you get to breathe again.
While Chief Miller is talking about this today, nearly a year later, many of those on the front lines that night still are not.
Some of them will discuss it. Some of them don't want to talk about it. Some of them, and rightfully so, didn't think they were going to go home that night. That they didn't know that they would ever see their spouse or their kids again.
And while telling their stories and defending his crews is important, Chief Miller says the focus really needs to be on the lessons learned. That's why there are new warning sirens, a push to sign up for code red alerts, new more visible road signage to help with escape routes, and a new AM radio station that will soon be up and running as another way to get information out in case of an emergency.
And I think that's what's going to be important is, what do we do now? Now that we know. There's no way that we can say, well, it's never happened here. Well, it has happened here. It happened here November 28th of 2016.
Good morning, everyone. We certainly appreciate the media being here today to report on this devastating event that we've had in Sevier County. You know, as daylight has come to Gatlinburg and Sevier County, we're just now beginning to assess the loss of structures and the general conditions throughout the area. I can tell you that we've all been overwhelmed at the scene of destruction in the county and primarily in the city of Gatlinburg.
We can't fix it. We can't go back. Can't change what happened. It happened. And I think that there are some out there who want to blame and want to look for blame. We're never going to find any answers. My faith tells me that God knows from the day that we're born when we're going to die. So I have no doubt in my mind it was my mom's time to go. And I have no doubt that I'll see her again one day. And that's really what keeps me going. I'll always be grieving. That's my mom. Until I see her again, it will always be tough. There will always be things that come up. There's not a time that I go to Gatlinburg I don't think about her. But as I said, I know she's in a better place. She's my dad now. They're together again, and I'll see them again one day. There are times when it gets to me, when smoke, sirens, all the things that we dealt with on that horrible day. It brings back the memories. But I try to just focus on the good things, the good things with Mom and the way she was, and before all this happened. The good memories, good food.
This firestorm that came through, don't use that as a measuring stick to gauge our willingness, our heart, our desire, our capabilities to take care of them. People remind themselves of why they fell in love with Gatlinburg and renew that love affair.
Their memory will be always with me. I mean, knowing that they died just a few 100 feet up the road, I mean, that's never going to change. You know, their death certificates are issued from the state of Tennessee. This is where they died. And I'll always have that connection. And I've said to you before, and he still is, and he always will be, he's my hero. Sorry, I gotta get through those. It's completely different right now. Obviously, with anybody, you lose the people that gave you life. All of a sudden they're gone. That's huge. Right now, my life is upside down, and it will be for some time to come. We are going to come out of this better than we've ever been, more prepared, more ways to notify. We know now that there's other things that the community as a whole can do to become wildfire resistant.
Just comes to say, I don't want to rebuild the way things were. I want to rebuild a much better and much more efficient home also. Once I lost the house and started looking for information, I ran into the Firewise program, and then Choi and I attended the Firewise program in Pigeon Forge. Little did I know, had I heard it earlier in life, I probably would not have listened, but that program has existed since 2002. So the idea of Firewise living has been around for a long time. Captain on the Gatlinburg Fire Department was trying to preach that since 2008. Nobody really listens until you get hit in the head by that 2x4, and then if you survive that hit, that's when things start gelling. And I have to think about it that way now that I know that Firewise living exists, and now that I know it's not about cutting all the trees or not living in the woods. It's actually much simpler than that. It's not just positive thinking, it's also forward thinking without forgetting what happened in the past, so you can actually really learn the lessons.
And then when Little Bear was gone, Pete tries to make humor to keep my emotions up, and he said, think about it, you're going to get a new home with a floor that's level. He said, we're going to rebuild, we're going to have a better house than we had before, and it's going to need a new name.
So,
New Bear.
So that's what Joy came up with.
With a piece of wood left over from the fire that's been whittled on a little bit, and it's charcoal, but it symbolizes our rebuilding.
Yep. Wood from the fire, continuity with the name Bear, and from Little Bear to New Bear, it all ties together because there's a thread through life that just kind of needs to keep going.
There are a lot of people in this community that have forged a closeness because of what we've been through, and how the community as a whole has stuck together. It's just amazing to hear these people and their positivity and saying that we're not going to let this firestorm define us.